Respected, listen to me carefully, because this might change the way you see love forever. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you go silent, the moment you pull your energy back, that's the moment his mind starts racing in ways you never imagined. Not because you played a game, but because you finally remembered your worth. There's something powerful about absence. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it simply is. And when a man who is used to your presence suddenly feels that silence, something shifts deep inside him. You see, most people think love is about holding on tighter, calling more, texting more, proving more. But what they don't understand is that sometimes the most powerful move is stepping back. Now I want you to really hear this, because this is where most people get it wrong. When you were always there, always available, always understanding, he got comfortable. Not because he's a bad man, but because human nature makes us adjust to what's constant. Just like air. You don't notice it until it's gone. And when you suddenly pull away, when your energy is no longer pouring into him, his mind doesn't stay calm.
No, it starts asking questions.
Why is she different? What change did I lose her? And those questions, they don't come from logic. They come from emotion. That's the part nobody teaches you. A man's mind is strong, yes, but his emotions, they hit him when he least expects it. I remember something Steve Harvey once said in his own way. He explained that a man values what he has to work for, what he feels he can lose, and what challenges his certainty. And when you were always there, he didn't feel that risk. But the moment you step back, the moment your attention wasn't guaranteed, now he feels something he wasn't ready for. Uncertainty. And uncertainty drives the mind crazy, because now he starts replaying moments. The way you used to laugh, the way you supported him, the way you were present when nobody else was. Things he once took for granted suddenly become memories he can't escape. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Men don't always process emotions in the moment. Sometimes they process them when it's too late. When you were there, he was living in the comfort of your love. But when you step away, he is forced to live in the absence of it. And absence is louder than praise. Essence when it comes to the heart. Now, don't misunderstand this. Pulling away is not about manipulation. It's not about playing games or trying to control someone. It's about reclaiming your energy. It's about saying, I will not pour into someone who doesn't recognize my value. And when you make that decision, when it's real, when it comes from self-respect, that's when the shift becomes powerful. Because energy doesn't lie. He can feel when you're done chasing. He can feel when your attention is no longer centered around him. And that's when his mind starts to wander. He checks his phone more. He notices your silence. He wonders if you've moved on, if someone else is giving you the attention he neglected to give. And suddenly the same man who took hours to reply now finds himself thinking about you at random moments, late at night, early in the morning, in between his busy schedule. Because what changed wasn't just your behavior. What changed was the balance. You stopped giving more than you were receiving. And let me tell you something honest, something real. A lot of people are afraid to pull away because they think, what if I lose him? But what they don't ask is, how am I losing by staying where I'm not valued? That's the real question. Because when you stay at a place where your effort isn't matched, where your love is taken for granted, where your presence is expected but not appreciated, you slowly lose yourself. And no relationship is worth that price. So when you pull away, it's not just about him. It's about you. It's about your peace, your dignity, your self-worth. And ironically, that's what makes him notice you more. Because confidence is silent but powerful. And here's what starts happening inside his mind. At first, he might think it's temporary. He might believe you'll come back the same way you always did. But when time passes, when your silence stays consistent, when your energy truly shifts, now his thoughts become restless. Why hasn't she reached out? Is she okay? Is she with someone else? And those thoughts, they don't leave easily. Because now, instead of you thinking about him all the time, he's the one thinking about you. That's the flip. That's the shift. And it doesn't happen because you forced it. It happens because you finally stopped forcing something that wasn't flowing naturally. You allowed the sea. And in that space, reality becomes clear. You start healing. You start growing. You start reconnecting with yourself. And while you're doing that, he's sitting there trying to figure out what just happened. That's the truth about human psychology. We don't always value what's constant. We often value what feels like it can slip away. And when you pull away with dignity, not anger, not drama, just quiet strength, it creates a powerful emotional impact. Now, let me take you deeper into this, because this is where it gets even more real. A man's mind doesn't just react to your absence, it starts creating stories. He starts imagining scenarios. He starts wondering if he missed his chance. And those thoughts, they build pressure. Because deep down, whether he admits it or not, he knows the difference between a woman who was just there and a woman who truly cared. And when that woman pulls away, it hits differently. It doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel easy. It feels like something important just slipped through his fingers. And that's when the mind goes into overdrive. Not because you did something dramatic, but because you stopped doing what he expected. You stopped bay. Not predictable. And predictability is comfort. But growth, realization, and emotional awakening, they happen in discomfort. So when you pulled away, you didn't just create distance, you created awareness. Awareness of your value. Awareness of his behavior. Awareness of what he might lose. And that awareness is what makes his mind restless. Now here's where it gets even deeper. Because what happens inside a man's mind after you pull away isn't just confusion, it's a quiet storm he doesn't know how to control. At first, he tries to ignore it. He tells himself it's nothing. She'll come back. She always does. That's his ego talking. That's the part of him that got used to your consistency, your patience, your understanding. But when days go by and your energy doesn't return, that confidence starts to crack. And this is where the shift begins, because now it's not about you chasing him anymore. It's about him realizing that something he relied on is no longer there. And the human mind doesn't like losing control. It doesn't like uncertainty. So what does it do? It starts searching for answers. He goes back to your last conversations. He replays your words. He remembers the moment she didn't think were important at the time. That small pause in your voice, that one message where you seemed distant, that one moment where you didn't react the way you used to, suddenly all of it matters. Because now he's trying to connect the dots. And let me tell you something real. Men are not always taught how to process emotions in real time. They're taught to move forward, stay strong, not overthink. But when you pull away, you force him into a space he's not comfortable in. Reflection. And reflection is powerful. Because now he's not just thinking about you, he's thinking about himself. Did I mess this up? Was I too distant? Did I take her for granted? These are questions he didn't ask when you were there, giving him your energy freely. But now, in your absence, those questions don't leave him alone. And here's the part most people don't understand. When a man starts questioning himself, it creates emotional tension. And that tension builds over time. It doesn't explode immediately. It grows quietly like pressure in a closed space. He might distract himself at first. Spend time with friends, focus on work, scroll endlessly on his phone. But no matter what he does, there are moments, small, unexpected moments, where your memory interrupts everything. A song reminds him of you. A place brings back your presence. A silence feels heavier than before. And in those moments, he feels something he wasn't prepared for. Loss. Not necessarily the loss of a relationship, but the loss of your energy, your attention, your presence. And energy is something people don't appreciate until it's gone. You see, when you were there, you filled spaces in his life he didn't even notice. You made things lighter, easier, warmer. And when you pulled away, those spaces didn't disappear. They became empty. And emptiness speaks loudly. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. As his mind keeps going back to you, something else starts to happen. His perception of you begins to change. The same things he once overlooked now become valuable. Your patience becomes rare. Your kindness becomes unforgettable. Your presence becomes irreplaceable. Because distance has a way of revealing truth. When you're close, people see you through habit. But when you're gone, they see you through memory. And memory often highlights what mattered most. That's why he starts idealizing you, not because you suddenly became perfect, but because your absence removed the distractions that kept him from truly seeing you. And this is the moment where his mind starts to go a little crazy, because now he's stuck between two realities. The past, where you were there and he didn't fully appreciate it, and the present, where you're gone and he can't ignore it. That contrast creates emotional chaos. He wants to reach out, but his ego holds him back. He wants to understand, but he doesn't know how to ask. He wants your presence again, but he's unsure if he deserves it. And that inner conflict, it's exhausting. Because now, for the first time, he's feeling the imbalance that you once felt. The overthinking, the wondering, the questioning, it shifted from you to him. And let me be clear about something. This doesn't mean every man will suddenly change or come running back. That's not the point. The point is the impact, the awareness, the realization that something valuable is no longer guaranteed. Because real change doesn't come from comfort. It comes from disruption. And your silence, your distance, your decision to pull away, that's a disruption he didn't expect. Now, E.T. me take you even deeper into this emotional shift. There's a moment, a very specific moment, where it truly hits him. It's not immediate. It doesn't happen on day one. It happens after enough time has passed for your absence to feel real. That's when he realizes this might not be temporary. And that realization changes everything because now it's no longer about pride. It's no longer about ego. It becomes about regret, about missed opportunities, about things he should have said, things he should have done differently. And regret is one of the most powerful emotions a human being can feel because you can't change the past. You can only sit with it. So now, while you're out there rediscovering yourself, rebuilding your peace, focusing on your growth, he's sitting there facing thoughts he can't escape. And this is why pulling away is so powerful when it comes from a place of self-respect. Not anger, not revenge, but clarity. Because when you leave with dignity, you don't create drama, you create impact. And impact stays. It lingers in the mind. It echoes in the heart. It shows up in quiet moments. And that's exactly where his mind starts to lose its balance, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. And now we reach the part nobody really talks about, the part where everything becomes real for him. Because up to this point, his mind has been racing, questioning, replaying memories, trying to understand what changed. But there comes a moment, a quiet, heavy moment, where it finally hits him in a way he can't ignore anymore. You're not coming back the same. And that realization, it shakes him. Not on the outside where everyone can see it, but on the inside where his pride can't protect him. Because a man can hide confusion, he can hide curiosity, he can even hide missing someone for a while, but he can't hide from the truth when it settles in his heart. And the truth is simple. Your energy is no longer his to access. You see, before he had a version of you that was always there, always responding, always caring, always trying to understand him, even when he didn't fully understand himself. And now that version is gone. And here's what makes it even more powerful. It wasn't taken from him. You chose to step back. That choice, it carries weight because now he knows it wasn't circumstances, it wasn't timing, it wasn't bad luck, it was your deed, the decision. And when a man realizes that a woman chose peace over him, chose self-respect over attachment, he begins to see the world in a different light. Chose growth over comfort, it forces him to look at himself in a way he avoided before. That's where the real storm begins. Because now it's not just about missing you, it's about understanding why he lost access to you. And that question, it doesn't leave him alone. He starts thinking deeper than before. Not just where is she, but why did she leave emotionally? Not just is she coming back, but did I push her away? And when those kinds of questions take over, something inside him starts to shift. Slowly, quietly, but powerfully. Because now for the first time, he's not just reacting to your absence, he's confronting his role in it. And let me tell you something real. Self-confrontation is one of the hardest things a person can go through. It's uncomfortable. It challenges the ego. It forces honesty where there used to be excuses. And not every man handles that well. Some men run from it. They distract themselves, avoid the feeling, pretend it doesn't matter. But even then, late at night in moments of silence, the truth creeps back in because you can't outrun. Awareness once it's there. Other men, they sit with it. They start to reflect. They start to grow. They begin to understand what they had, what they lost, and what they could have done differently. And this is where everything separates, because your absence didn't just affect him, it revealed him. It showed whether he's capable of growth or stuck in his patterns. It showed whether he values connection or just convenience. It showed whether he can rise to the level of what you offered or remain comfortable in what he's always been. And while he's going through all of this, you're changing too. That's the part people underestimate. Pulling away doesn't just impact him, it transforms you. Because when you stop pouring your energy into someone who isn't meeting you halfway, you create space. Space to think, to feel, to heal. Space to reconnect with parts of yourself you ignored while you were focused on him. You start realizing things you didn't see before. You start noticing how much effort you were giving and how little you were receiving. You start understanding that love isn't supposed to feel one-sided. You start remembering who you were before you started overextend. You're in yourself, and that realization is powerful. Because now, even if he comes back, even if he reaches out, even if he suddenly realizes everything, you're no longer the same person who was waiting for it. You've grown, and growth changes your standards. So now when he thinks about reaching out, when he considers breaking that silence, he feels something else mixed in with his emotions. Fear. Not fear of you rejecting him out of anger, but fear of you no longer needing him, because there's a difference. When a woman is hurt, she can still be emotionally attached. But when a woman heals, she becomes detached in a way that's calm, steady, and unshakable. And that kind of detachment, it's intimidating. Because now he knows if he reaches out, he can't meet the same version of you he once had control over. He has to face a version of you that sees clearly, thinks differently, and values herself more. And that changes the entire dynamic. Now he has to step up or step aside. And that pressure, it's real. Because deep down, he knows the truth. He knows whether he treated you right or not. He knows whether he showed up fully or only when it was convenient. He knows what. For her, he matched your effort or just accepted it. And when a man knows he didn't do enough, coming back becomes harder. Not because he doesn't care, but because he has to face the reality of his actions. And that's where his mind feels overwhelmed. Because now it's not just about missing you, it's about measuring himself against what you deserved. And that's a heavy realization. Now, let me tell you something that might change how you see all of this. Your power was never in chasing him. It was never in convincing him, proving yourself, or trying to earn his attention. Your power was always in your ability to walk away from what didn't honor you. And the moment you did that, everything shifted, not just for him, but for you. Because now you're no longer operating from fear of losing him, you're operating from understanding your value. And that's the kind of energy that changes lives. That's the kind of energy that makes people stop, reflect, and sometimes regret. So while his mind is going through all these layers of confusion, realization, regret, and maybe even growth, you're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't settle for less than what you give. And that is the real story. Not just how his mind goes crazy when you pull away, but how your life becomes clearer when you do. And now we arrive at the part where everything either comes together or falls apart completely. Because by this stage, his mind isn't just racing anymore, it's tired. Tired of overthinking, tired of wondering, tired of carrying emotions he didn't prepare himself to feel. What started as confusion has now turned into something deeper, a realization he can no longer ignore. You are not easy to replace. And that truth, it settles slowly, but when it does, it hits hard. Because in the beginning, he might have told himself he had options. He might have believed that moving on would be simple, that distractions would fill the space you left behind. But time has a way of revealing reality. Conversations with others don't feel the same. The connection doesn't carry the same depth. The understanding isn't as natural because what you gave him wasn't surface level. It was real, and real is rare. That's when comparison begins. Not because he wants to compare, but because his mind automatically goes back to what felt genuine. He starts noticing the difference between attention and intention, between someone being there and someone truly caring. And slowly he understands something he didn't fully grasp before. You weren't just another person in his life. You were someone who added value in ways he didn't recognize at the time. And now he feels the absence of that value. But here's where it becomes even more real. There are two paths in front of him at this point, and the direction he chooses says everything about the kind of man he is. One path is growth. This is where he puts his ego aside, where he becomes honest with himself, where he admits that he could have done better, that he could have shown up more, that he could have valued you while he had the chance. This path isn't easy because it requires accountability. It requires him to step out of his comfort zone and become better, not just for you, but for himself. If he chooses this path, then your absence didn't just affect him, it changed him. But there's another path, the path of avoidance. This is where he convinces himself that it doesn't matter, where he buries his feelings, distracts himself, and refuses to look deeper. On the surface, it might seem like he moves, head on. It might look like he's unaffected. But deep down, the lesson remains unfinished. Because you can ignore emotions, but you can't erase them. And sooner or later, they resurface. That's the truth about running from growth. It always catches up to you. Now, here's the part I want you to really understand, because this is where your power becomes undeniable. No matter which path he chooses, you win. And I don't mean that in a prideful or arrogant way. I mean that in a grounded, self-respecting, life-changing way. Because if he grows, if he realizes your value, if he comes back with genuine effort and understanding, then you're no longer dealing with the same version of him. You're dealing with someone who has been forced to reflect, to mature, to recognize what matters. And if he doesn't, if he stays the same, if he avoids growth, if he never truly understands what he lost, then you didn't lose him. You avoided a future where you would have continued giving to someone who wasn't ready to receive it properly. Either way, you protect your peace. And that's what this was always about. Not making his mind go crazy, not making him chase you, not trying to win someone over. The CK, but choosing yourself. Because when you truly choose yourself, everything changes. the way you love, the way you give, the way you allow people into your life, it all becomes intentional. You stop accepting half effort. You stop over-explaining your worth. You stop chasing clarity from people who create confusion. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You become calm. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer fighting for what should come naturally. And that calmness, it's powerful. It's the kind of energy that people feel even without words. It's the kind of presence that commands respect without demanding it. And ironically, it's the same energy that often makes him think about you even more. Because now you're not the person who needed him. You're the person who chose yourself. And that difference, it changes everything. Now, if he decides to come back, if he reaches out, if he tries to reconnect, the dynamic is no longer the same. You're not standing in a place of longing anymore. You're standing in a place of clarity. You see him for who he is, not who you hoped he would be. And that allows you to make decisions from strength, not emotion. You can listen, but you don't have to accept. You can care, but you don't have to settle. You can consider, but you don't have to compromise your worth. And that's what growth looks like. Real growth, the kind that doesn't just change your relationships, it changes your life. So while his mind may have gone through confusion, regret, realization, maybe even transformation, your journey was never about controlling that process. Your journey was about becoming someone who no longer loses themselves trying to keep someone else. And when you reach that point, you don't just attract better, you become better.